But that requires an enormous amount of you singers. I mean, that you have to have experience and courage. It's both, isn't it?
Yes. Foolhardiness, you might say at times. No, it's awful. You drag your feet to go to the rehearsals. It's just agony. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, day after day, we would improvise dialogue. You know, that's not easy in your own language, but when you're there in a German house and you're having to improvise and come up with dialogue on the spot, and someone is putting it down, and then you rehearse it, and a script is then produced, and that will be the working script from which you will spend your next 2 months of work or whatever it might be. That's hard. That's very hard, and not particularly productive, I think.
Are you good at languages?
I'm a parrot, a bit of a parrot, and I'm like a lot of opera singers. I've got past the stage in my Bach years of being able to order up the Heilige Geist or whatever in a restaurant. I know what Kartoffeln are and so forth. So, it's not. I'm not bad. I'm not bad. But we all, you know, I go to any German town and I live as a German. I go to an Italian town. I live in Spoleto like an Italian. Whatever's required. And I think by so doing, you open doors for yourself as well. You know, you're so much more easily accepted, and you get a vision, I think, into the culture of that particular place. I mean, I always remember working with Violet Tunnard many years ago, when she was one of the staff accompanists of the BBC. Those are the days. And we were doing Mahler or Brahms, I forget what it was, and I just said, I just wish I had a greater facility with the language, a greater knowledge of the language, you know, that there was more of it available to me. And she said, it will come. And it did come, but I mean, it's work. It doesn't just happen. You have to work at it. And as you work at it, and if you're a leader singer, you work at it, and you suddenly feel as though it's sunrise, or the doors open, you know, and it just gets brighter and brighter and brighter, and your understanding is that much more. And that's a wonderful feeling.
I suppose for many of us that your whole career has kind of stretched out round Mozart. I mean, your earliest roles as Welsh National, Guglielmo, Almaviva, Papageno. What in the end makes Mozart remarkable for you?
Style, the cleanliness of it, the rigor of singing it correctly. All of these things appeal to me. I'm a Virgo. I think, not that I believe necessarily in star signs, but I think it has something to do with my nature, and it appeals to me. Not the rigidity of it, but the discipline that's within it, and I like that. I like the being made to sing rigidly, which is what we do, you know, and we sometimes forget that, and may come on to that in a while. But the job of a classical singer is difficult because we have no leeway, and what was laid down 200 years ago by Mozart has to be sung in that way now, and continues, whether you're training in Japan. What the extraordinary thing is, if you're putting together a cast for Figaro and you take them from all corners of the earth, they all arrive and they're all disciplined in that same way, and it's possible to make it work. And so that appeals to me, really. It's as much as that. And then every now and then you have flights of fancy, and you can explore other styles that are not quite so rigid, perhaps.
People often talk about there being a kind of Mozartian voice across all the registers he writes for.
It's not mine.
Right.
Mine's too high. It's been a struggle for me over the years singing Mozart, because I always want to sing high. My voice lies in that high baritone range, and he didn't write for that, with one or two exceptions. So there are those bass baritone voices, you know, that encompass it much more easily. For me, it's always been a bit of a struggle. But I've found a way of doing it, and found a way of making it successful. But there are times, you know, when you just need, I've often said that the role of Figaro, for example, if you haven't got, are not happy singing in C major, don't bother with it. C major, there's this block C major for the big aria at the end of the first act. And if you can't make that can't manage that and give that some tremendous impact, it's a really difficult role for you. And I wish he'd written it in D. It would have been very nice.
But here you are, I mean, as I said, your career measured out against these great roles. And now you tell us that, you know, the voice doesn't naturally lie. I mean, did you not wish to escape and go and do something else?
No, because there was such a genius working there. But it was not just Mozart. The more I became familiar with the Italian, the more I realized that the genius was a shared one. And I, you know, take my hat off always to Da Ponte, who is this extraordinary man. And with any of them, it's particularly with Don Giovanni, it's what you make of the text and the recitative. Giovanni has the aria you heard now, and he has the mad champagne aria, so-called, and he has an aria where he pretends to be Leporello. So it's hardly a Non mi dia or Sai che l'onore. You know, there are three odd arias. And so the secret of the man and making success of the man and the character lies in this other human quality, that the possibility of the drama that lies in the recitative, and that's where I love the aspect of working with Mozart. That's where I get my biggest thrill, really.
And that's true of all the Da Ponte.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
How do you prepare yourself for these operas?
Rigid, strict diet. That's a lie. I always lie at that moment.
Because we all believe you.
Yes, I know.
You're
Well, I used to, when I was studying Giovanni, I was living on the Southern Region Railway, or very near it at least, and I used it a lot to come in from Surrey into Covent Garden. So I'd sit there every day going through the text of Don Giovanni for probably too short a period. I mean, the first offer that I had of singing Don Giovanni, I thought I'd learn this in 3 weeks. Well, I didn't, and I was sacked. I quite happily admit to that now. I was sacked. I couldn't do it, and it was a real obstacle, this dealing with the rapidity or the skill that one requires for the Italian. And so I sat on Southern Region services, going in and out of Surrey, studying this piece and getting to grips with it and pulling funny faces, you know, commuters moving away from you, from their accustomed seats, because this madman was on the train. So it's that. You just live with the score. Rosenkavalier stood on my piano for quite a while, quite thick. Rosenkavalier is that thick. Meistersinger is just a wee bit thicker, maybe. Busoni's Dr. Faust is that thick. And in most of these operas, you know, you're heavily engaged. And it's a question of daring to open that book for the first time and starting and just read, and just become familiar with the shape, the geography of it, the architecture of it. And then, you know, that becomes familiar, that piece becomes familiar, and then the bit in the middle, and then you link that bit into that bit, and there are mnemonics you can use as well, Pelmanism and whatever. And we all have ways of remembering it. It's alphabetical, it's not alphabetical, and tricks to try to get it into the head. But basically it's just repeat. And that hasn't changed.
You talked a minute ago about how Don Giovanni exists really in the recitatives.
Yes.
The whole process of finding Don Giovanni or finding Figaro or finding Almaviva, how do you find these characters? Where do they come from?
One's imagination, and the more vivid one's imagination is, and then I think the better chance you have. I live a lot in, and I advise younger singers as well to go and visit galleries frequently, you know, to look at Fragonard, to look at Watteau, or whatever you're dealing with. I mean, there are clues in the pictures, you know, the swing, the dreadful clues that are in that picture, for example. And it's essential to be familiar with all of this, to have this at your fingertips and to know what you're dealing with. But Giovanni is the difficult one. Alfonso, you know, you are in whatever period it's set, and you're this observer, you manipulate. But Giovanni, you have to be a devil, and you have to know that there's a devil in you and access it at all times. To know that you can dare to break the bonds, break the barriers, go beyond the frontiers. You have to just be capable of doing anything at any particular time. You have to shock people and have the ability to shock people. working with Strehler at La Scala. He thought he would shock me by telling me that Giovanni's supper was coming this particular night. So he gave me a pig's head, a prepared hot pig's head on a silver salver to eat. So I ate it. I ate the ear first. And you have to. It's no good my being in awe of Strehler at that moment and cowed by him. I had to take him head on with everything he was presenting me and show that I was capable of doing it. I mean, he'd started off by saying, "You can't possibly be Don Giovanni. You're a Viking. Don Giovanni is not a Viking." And so then you think, well, okay, he's destroyed me. I'll build it up again, and we'll see where we go from there. And Giovanni, you just have to believe from the moment you walk into the rehearsal room on that first day and start building, that you're capable of doing it, and you control everything. You have to control everything. I don't think or I certainly didn't start out being aware of ego, but you have to have an ego. You can't get up there and do these monstrous roles without acknowledging the fact that that ego exists and is very large within you. And in the case particularly of Don Giovanni, it's a monster. He's a devil, he's a monster, he's Promethean, he's Protean, he can change himself in a second from that to that, and you just have to be capable of doing those things. You see a stimulus coming at you from one direction, you challenge it, you take it head on, you shock Donna Anna, for example. You know, you think, why does he admit or give the game away in the quality of his voice with Donna Anna that he was the man that night who raped her or attempted to rape her? But that's what he does. That's what he does. It's the way. It's meat and drink to him. And if you can't allow your imagination to take you into those areas, you've no right to be singing that role. Or you have right,